On FM, AM and online.
Nick Coffer.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Now, I've been promising you Christopher Biggins. Last week I caught up with a Buckinghamshire man who made the jump to turn from engineer to children's author. Nick Rose grew up in and around Aylesbury and has turned a book idea into an animated app for tablets like iPads. Myro is the story of a microlight plane whose adventures are narrated by none other than Christopher Biggins himself. They both joined me. This was just before I lost my voice actually last week, so you can hear the start of a croaky voice. And I started by asking Nick whether his engineering career had helped him create his books.
The engineering side helped me to set up a business which I could afford to do this great new adventure. It's something I always loved was aeroplanes and flying. I lived underneath a flight path. I worked on a farm which was on an old runway, so flying was a big thing for me. And I set up my electronics business after going to Aylesbury Grammar School and was able to finance this wonderful project. And then I was able to get Chris involved, which was fantastic. Christopher Biggins.
You've flown planes at microlights in Australia, haven't you?
That's right. I went out there for a friend's wedding and I had a few weeks to kill, and in 1 week I just learned to fly a microlight because it was a fantastic opportunity to do it. The weather was great there. Met some wonderful people, and all the books are based on the adventures I had in Australia, flying my little microlight around the place.
Are you saying that you had no previous flying experience at all before going to Australia, or did you to learn microlight flying in a week?
I got in a 747 to get there, and that was it.
That's astonishing. So you're telling me I could learn to microlight in a week?
In Australia you could. It's a bit stricter in the UK.
They have more space over there, you see. You're not likely to fly into anything, you know, the odd tree, but that's all.
Chris is absolutely right. The airspace is amazing. You could fly for an hour without coming across any other aircraft. In the UK, well, you couldn't fly more than 20 minutes. Yes.
No, disaster.
Describe a microlight plane to me. What is it that defines it as a microlight?
A microlight plane has, well, this is what I describe when I go to schools and I talk to primary school children. It looks like a bathtub with wheels from a wheelbarrow. There's a hang glider wing on top, and right at the back there's a little engine which comes from a lawnmower. And I'll say to all the little kids, would you fly in one of them? And they're all jumping up and down and going, yes, yes, yes.
I would have thought the answer is no. Would you fly in a bathtub with a lawnmower engine on the back? No.
No, I certainly wouldn't, but I think probably kids would. They would love to do that.
What do you love about being in the sky, Nick? Obviously, it's the theme of your books, but what pleasure do you get from being in a microlight?
When you're in a microlight, you just look down at the ground, and there's no floor of the cockpit. You look and you see the ground, and you can fly so low. In the UK, there's no restrictions except you can't fly over buildings or animals or people unless you're over a couple of 100 feet, and you can see everything so close up. So the books, they're able to show you everything you can see, and when you're in Australia, you get to see the kangaroos closely. I've seen kangaroos boxing at the end of runways, and that's what I've tried to get across in the books, all the little things that you get to see.
Nick, I get the sense that we're probably of a fairly similar generation. Do you remember Adam painting in Rent-A-Ghost?
Oh, I remember Christopher Biggins more in Rent-A-Ghost, and that's what I loved about getting Chris involved in the project. I absolutely loved Rent-A-Ghost. I absolutely believed it when I was about 4 or 5. Amazing.
As a final question to Nick, I wanted to find out what led him to where the books are today.
What I wanted to do was create a series of books for boys, and I wanted to create lots of images of aeroplanes and really cool pictures of animals and some really great stories, harking back to the days when I loved watching Thunderbirds. And so I went about it and self-published it myself. I got a whole team of fantastic freelancers around me, and we spent 7 years preparing the books before they were actually published and launched, and I set up my own publishing company to do that. And then as soon as we launched those, we did a school's musical and a CD of songs, and that's when we started working on the iPad apps, because they'd just started coming out, the iPads. And when we were almost completed and ready to go, Christopher wonderfully accepted my invitation to come and narrate the products, and it's been absolutely fantastic. I've enjoyed working with him so much.
What is incredible about Nick, this is done all on his own. You know, he's financed it, he's brought everybody in, he's spent a lot of his hard-earned money on creating this.
Let's talk about Myro himself, the hero of your books. I get a sense when reading the stories, which are obviously aimed at preschool kids, so for children and grandchildren. I get a sense that you're quite into your old-fashioned values. You know, there's this notion of Myro being the little one going up against the big guys and maintaining his sense of self-worth.
Yes, it was really important to me to try and create something that had a bit of meat, bit of flesh to the books. I grew up loving Thunderbirds, and I absolutely loved the way that they'd go out and they'd rescue people at the end of the day, and they always did right, and sometimes they did silly things, but then they learnt from it. And I really wanted to bring that across in the books, and I didn't want anything that was a bit too smarmy or nice. I just wanted something which was wholesome and something that I would like to read.
It's definitely a return to old-fashioned values, of vintage values, you not think?
Yes, that's really what I wanted to do. When I was younger, when I was growing up in Cublington, I used to go to the village fetes at Wingrave, where I went to school, and I used to go to the fairs and buy old Eagle annuals. I don't know if you ever remember those. They were written in the 1950s and 60s, and they had the boys' own adventures, all black and white pictures, and that's what I was weaned on.
Is Myro a boy's own hero for 2012?
I'd like to think so, and he's got his best friend Gigi. She's a girl's own hero. She's his best friend from New Zealand. So I've tried to incorporate all sorts of different characters who might have settled in Australia.
Christopher Biggins and Nick Rose, thank you both very much indeed for joining me, and all the very best in your project.
Thank you very much for having us on.
Thank you very much, Nick.
Myro is the smallest plane in the world. There are a series of books based on Myro. If you want to seek them out in all the usual places, Myro and the Jet Fighter. Myro returns to Australia, and as Christopher and Nick were mentioning there is an iPad app that they've just released for Myro. Arriving in Australia, lots of pictures and lots of music and lots of stuff. A local author, Nick Rose, and it was a pleasure to speak to both of them. Coming up after 1 o'clock...